Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be discussing WS Proxy via SSJS for all operations related to Marketing Cloud objects. And we'll be doing a lot of different sessions on WS Proxy. It will not be a single session that I will be trying to cover everything, but we'll break down this session related to WS Proxy into multiple videos. I would ask you all to visit my blog, that is b2sasi.blogspot.com, and then you can come here and search for WS Proxy documentation and read it for yourself. I would not go and basically discuss what is written in this blog. I believe it is self-explanatory, and everybody who will go through this blog would understand what is WS Proxy. Let's go directly to today's discussion with WS Proxy. So first we'll go with the describe function. Okay, so the describe function basically it states that you can do a describe. You can call a describe method, okay, for a particular object, and then find all the properties attached to that particular object. And if you're not familiar with objects in Marketing Cloud, I will say go to Google and write objects in Marketing Cloud, and then open this link. You'll find all the objects, and today I would only focus only into one object to make people familiar with WS Proxy. And the most favorite object that we will be dealing with is data extension. Fine. So inside data extension, you can go and find all the properties for the data extension, and we'll be discussing only this in this particular session. Okay, and we are first going with the describe method for data extension. So if I copy this, let's go here and let's select this. So here, this two-line statement, what it says is where prox equals to new script.util.ws proxy. This is the first statement that you need to write, and this is basically creating an object of WS Proxy. Okay, so first you need to initialize WS Proxy object, and then what you need to do is you need to call the describe method, okay, passing a parameter or an argument for that particular function with the name of the object that you want to describe. So here in the case it is data extension. Fine. So if I have to just little modify this code, the first thing that we need is, because we are doing JavaScript, so you need to have a open and the closing tag. Okay. Obviously this is not a client side, so we need to say run at server. Okay. And also you can add the language. That's not mandatory, but you can add here. Okay, this JavaScript, and here you can copy this two-line of code. Okay, and then this code is enough to basically get what you want. Okay, but obviously this is not going to serve all the purpose. Okay, here if you see, it says it will return you the request ID and the results. Okay, when you run this code, but here I need to have some kind of interpretation what this particular JSON object is getting caught. Okay, so if I want to print this value, definitely what I'm going to do is to add the core library function so that I can use the write function and write whatever the response I'm getting it from the proxy. Okay, and then what I can do, I can then write, I can do the stringify and then write the response. Okay, so I can say stringify and then write the response. Fine. Yeah, so let me do this. Let me copy this and slowly, before going to this, okay, I have a habit of writing a modular code. Okay. And because what happens is once you follow this one, it will help your programming knowledge, and also it will help your team, so that your team do not come and basically overwrite what you have written or create some kind of issue which becomes difficult for you to troubleshoot. So keeping that in mind, first let's go step by step. So let me copy this code. Okay, let's jump to Marketing Cloud instance. Let's create code resource and say demo one. Okay, let's save this, create a JavaScript code resource, and let's paste the code. Okay, everything looks fine. Let's apply and let's see what it prints. So only 4 lines of code. Okay, and let's see, right? So this is what your response would look like. Here you can see this formatting because I have added Chrome extension. So if you want to add Chrome extension, what you can say JSON Chrome, just you write JSON Chrome, then you get a JSON formatter, and from the JSON formatter you can basically add it to your Chrome. Okay, so this is how it will look like. Here what you can see is the request ID, the results. Okay, and inside the results the object type is data extension. Fine. And then you have the properties, and inside the properties you have different properties. So you have object ID, partner key, all the properties would be basically. So I can basically minimize the properties and see there are around 33 properties, okay, for data extension. Fine. So quite in simple. Now what next? So I just okay, before going there, you can see inside the properties. These are basically, you can consider in technical jargons, people who call this as a metadata. So the property name is object ID and the data type is string. Okay, keep this in mind. As we progress, these all things will help you in a lot of things. But for now, we are only considering on the name. Okay, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to little bit of optimization with this code. This is going to work fine. So first thing I'm going to do is let's use the try and catch. Okay, so try, because this is going to help me troubleshoot as we progress with the code. Okay, and then I have the catch. Fine. So here also I'm going to write try and write and then stringify exception. Okay, so whatever exception it throws, it becomes easy for me. Fine. This one I can use it for like any objects, right? So here, if I do this, it only works for data extension. So whenever I see it's repetitive, so what I do is I create a function and say function describe soap object. Okay, and it requires an argument of like the soap object name. Okay, soap object name, and what I can do is I can copy this line of code. Okay, Control X, do this. Okay, I can also like for this is the object that it gets created every time a function has to be called. Well and good. So I'm making the scope for this particular object to be relevant for this particular function. Okay. So I don't like procs. I will say API, and I'll consider this to be an API. Okay. And basically I'm returning this. So I could have said uh, return this. Okay. And if somebody thinks this has to be returned, okay, here, so I'll say var response equals to describe this object. Okay, and here this will not be the data extension. I'll cut this and replace this. This becomes data extension. Looking for this object, right? So this is my now I'm doing little modularization of this code. Okay, helping everybody to understand how should you write the code. Obviously, you can give what this particular function does. You can have the comment saying that this function, just making it very simple. This function returns the soap object meta data. Simple. Okay, you can have more elaborative comments and all. I'm just making it simple. Okay, you can copy this code. What we can do is, okay, let's go to this code. I think it's getting hanged. Okay, okay, fine. So paste this code, say publish, okay, and then you run this. So this is null. Okay, why? Because here the response which I'm doing is res. That's response because I have a habit of writing a proper variable. So that's why it's null. So let's publish this, run this. Okay, this is cached by the way. Okay, so that's the problem. So I have a lot of browsers, so I can run it in some other browser. Yeah, so here I don't have the parser, the extension, okay, the JSON formatter here. So this is how it looks like. But anyway, the function is working fine forward. Okay, so this is what I do describe. But I don't only want because if you see this one, I don't know if I've closed it. Okay, but I can what I can do is if I'm using code resource, so it gets cached. So better way is to create another code resource. Okay, so I'll say demo2 and wait next. Yeah, okay, and then paste it here. Okay, and say save and publish. Fine, and our response for this, right? So we have the result set results, and inside the results we have the object as data extension and with the properties. So we are more will be moving to retrieve method in WS Proxy, and for this retrieve, one of the parameter is the properties name that we have to pass, right? So from here, let's say, let's take this one example. Inside the properties, we have the name, data type, and data values and other things right here. But I only need the name from these properties, right? When I pass. So if you are not understand, let's do one thing. Let's go to retrieve. Okay. So here in this retrieve, if you see, let's copy this line. Better, let me copy this line. Let's leave this one. Let's go here. Okay. Java and paste it here. So first is the variable create the object creation for WS Proxy. The second is the columns. Okay. Like name, customer key, category ID, and is sendable. These are all properties, okay, which we have to define, and then call the retrieve function. So for retrieve, we just not don't require the so object name, but also columns. So we have two different arguments that we need to pass for this function. Fine. So I need this column, right? What I can do is because I'm getting from the describe, I can basically parse the describe, okay, and get all these values, all these columns, the properties name, basically, right? So what I can do, I can also create a function. I'm getting a response, okay, and I can pass that response and then do that. Okay, so I have already created. I don't want to waste all the time. So this is the function properties name. Okay, here I paste it here. I'll explain it here. So this retrieve soap properties name, okay, it takes a argument called metadata. Okay, I'll explain what is this. And I have a column. Okay, let me columns basically properties. Okay, let's keep this columns only. Okay, I have a habit of giving a proper name so that people understand. I have an array object like similar to this where calls. Okay, so here, and I have a for loop, and inside the for loop here I'm using the push, which is basically a JavaScript method, which is applicable both in the client side as well as server side. So I'm saying calls that push, and from this metadata I'm getting the name. So basically, uh, what happens here, I'll show you. Okay, so this is a function. Now here what I need is, let's say I have where calls. Okay, and I need to basically, what I need to do is, before the calls, let me first parse this properties. Okay, so properties is the response. I got it from the describe object. Okay, and then inside that I have results. The results is a array. So the first array object, and inside that results, let's go here and see. So I had results. Oops, just a minute. So here in the request, then we have results, right? So I'm going inside the results, and inside the results, I'm going to properties. Okay. So here results properties, which is also an array. Okay. So I simply want to send the array, and the array will be parsed and get me the names. Right. So this becomes the properties. I can change this saying that this is properties. Okay. This is properties. This is properties. I said metadata, which makes sense, but for you all to understand, this become the properties. Okay. Now I want to get all the columns. So I'm going to call this function retrieve properties name and all. And then I'm going to pass properties as a argument. Fine. So it's going to do a for loop. You can do the for loop here inside the main function also. That's fine. But I have a habit keeping it simple and easy for me to debug. Okay. And then if you want to basically see what are, oops, if you want to see what are the columns, okay, what it returns. I just want from this, all this, everything that is getting here printed here, I simply want just the properties name. Okay, so let me close this. Let's go back to our code. Okay, copy this and hopefully paste it here. Okay, and let's publish this. If it gets hanged, or let's see if it gets cached, I'll create another code resource. Okay. So here, yeah, so it got properly parsed, and I got all the properties for that particular data extension. Right. So we have all these property objects that we have. Okay. Few like this one, like sendable data extension field.name, sendable data extension subscriber field.name. Okay. So it is basically going to this object and fetching that particular property. Okay. And obviously this will have some issue, but no worries. What we did. Okay. Now the next thing is, with these columns, I need to basically do a retrieve. So similar to this describe method. Okay. I have defined a function called retrieve. Okay. So here what I can do, I can write another function. So here is same. Okay. The retrieve you can do with different methods. So here this is a retrieve soap object, soap object name calls, and we have also, we can apply filter. We can remove the filter also. Right. Let's go one by one. So let's remove the filter. Okay. Here you go. So retrieve soap object. We have to provide the soap object name and the columns to retrieve. Fine. And it will give us the response. It will return the response. Okay. I have already defined the columns. Okay. So what I can do is I can call this function. So this is where another response. So what I'll say is retrieve response. Retrieve a response equals to call this function. What it requires the object name for which it needs to retrieve, and it requires the columns for it to retrieve. Fine. Now, let's try this. And I want to basically print what it is sending us back. So we are moving to the retrieve method in WS Proxy. Okay, let's copy this. Let's try this. Okay, if it returns the old value, then I'm going to create a new code resource and run it. But sometimes it works fine. It doesn't cache. So fine. Okay, so this is the old one. So this is the issue. Okay, let me create a demo tree. Demo tree. JavaScript. Paste it here. Okay, you can do formatting and all. Let's save this, publish this. Obviously, it will land to an error, I know. Okay, yeah, because there are certain attributes, okay, which do not match with this particular request. That's why it throws an error saying that there is an error because there is fields which are basically not properly defined. So fine. What I can do, okay, I can define few columns for a demo. So here, instead of this column, I'm going to, anyway, for now, I'm going to make a comment on this, okay, and just predefine few columns. Okay, copy this. So here I have object ID, customer name, customer key, name, created, modified it, blah blah blah. Okay, copy this, close this. Okay, fine. Publish and run this. This is cached anyway. Okay, so better to make this easy and simpler, create another one. I'll work on the cache issue also someday or the other. I have some mechanism how to clear the cache from the browser. I'll show you in some other session. So here we're just doing a simple retrieve. Fine. On this. So here you get, okay. So here what happens is you're getting all the data extensions in this particular business unit, okay. And with whatever attributes that you have selected here, like this object ID, customer, and this all values will be populated with proper values, okay. And whatever other properties you have, those will be defined as 0 or null. So if you're seeing null and zeros, it simply means we have not defined those values to be there. Like